What happens when country music's biggest star sits down for what should be a routine interview, only to have the host dig into the one topic he never talks about? What unfolded became one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history, where years of buried tension finally exploded in front of millions of viewers. This is the story of how a simple question turned into a career-defining moment that no one saw coming. Kelly. Clarkson adjusted her earpiece as Blake Shelton settled into the plush chair across from her on the brightly lit set. The audience buzzed with excitement. Phones lifted and recording as Blake flashed his trademark grin. This was supposed to be easy, a warm conversation between two friends and fellow voice coaches, promoting Blake's new album, swapping funny stories, and delivering the kind of banter fans love. "Blake Shelton, everybody," Kelly announced, her voice full of the charm that had made her talk show a household favorite. The audience erupted in applause. "It's so good to have you here," Kelly smiled. "We've got so much to catch up on." "Always good to be here, Kelly." "Thanks for having me," Blake replied, settling back into the chair, relaxed and jovial. "This place looks incredible." "Way fancier than those spinning chairs we used to sit in." The audience laughed. Kelly grinned. "Don't get me started on those chairs. I still have back problems from spinning around so much. But speaking of the voice," her tone shifted slightly, almost unnoticeably. But Blake noticed. His smile didn't fade, but his eyes narrowed. "Shoot. You know me? I'm an open book." Kelly leaned forward. "There's been a lot of speculation over the years about what really happened during that last season we did together. The tension was obvious. I think it's time we address the elephant in the room." Blake's jaw tightened, his posture stiffening almost imperceptibly. "I'm not sure what you're getting at, Kelly. We had a great time working together. Always did." "Come on, Blake," Kelly pressed, her voice gaining an edge the audience immediately picked up on. "We both know that's not entirely true. There were real issues behind the scenes, and I think our fans deserve to know what was going on between us." The studio fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Blake shifted, his usual charm beginning to crack. "Look, Kelly, I came here to talk about my music, not to rehash drama that doesn't exist." "But it does exist, Blake," Kelly countered sharply. "Pretending it doesn't is exactly the problem. You made comments to producers about my coaching style that were completely out of line, and then you acted like nothing happened when we were on camera." Blake's eyes flashed. "Excuse me? My comments about your coaching style? Kelly, you spent half that season undermining my advice and making little digs about country music not being real music. You want to talk about things that were out of line?" The air in the studio grew heavier. Kelly's cheeks flushed, but she didn't back down. "That's not what happened, and you know it. I was trying to help those kids find their own voice, not turn them into Blake Shelton clones." "Blake Shelton clones?" Blake leaned forward, his voice rising. "Kelly, I've launched more careers from that show than anyone else. Just because I gave honest feedback instead of sugarcoating doesn't mean I was cloning anybody." Kelly shook her head, frustration creeping in. "Honest feedback? You told Sarah Mitchell her original song sounded like something a teenager would write in her diary. She was 17. That wasn't honesty, Blake. That was cruel." Blake's face hardened. Sarah needed to hear the truth. The industry is brutal. I wasn't going to lie just to make her feel good. Being a mentor sometimes means being tough. Being tough and being mean are two different things. Kelly's voice sharpened, and the way you talked about her afterward was worse. "I heard what you said." Blake gripped the arms of his chair. "And what exactly did I say, Kelly?" Kelly's eyes locked on his. "You said she didn't have what it takes in Nashville, that she was too soft, too emotional. Then you laughed and said maybe she should stick to writing songs for Disney movies because they like saccharine garbage." Gasps rippled through the audience. Blake's face paled, then flushed red. "That was a private conversation between coaches. We were supposed to be candid. That wasn't meant to be thrown back years later." "Private?" Kelly's voice rose. "Blake, there are always cameras rolling," and Sarah was standing outside the door. She heard every word. Blake's composure cracked. "How was I supposed to know she was there? And besides, it's not like I was wrong. Where is Sarah Mitchell now, Kelly?" His voice cut sharp. "What happened to her big career?" Kelly stood, something she had never done mid-interview. "She quit music, Blake. A 17-year-old girl who lived for music gave up her dream because of what you said." She works at a bank in Ohio. She hasn't touched a guitar since. Blake's voice rose. That's not on me. If she couldn't handle one piece of criticism, maybe she really didn't have what it takes. I was preparing her for reality. Kelly laughed bitterly. Reality? You destroyed a kid's confidence because she didn't fit your narrow box of what country music should be. That wasn't reality. That was sabotage. Blake stood, towering over her. Sabotage? Kelly, I've spent my career helping artists. I don't need to sabotage anyone, especially not a teenager who was never going to make it anyway. The audience gasped again. Kelly's jaw dropped. Never going to make it anyway? That girl had more raw talent in her pinky than half the artists on radio. Oh, please, Blake scoffed. She had a pretty voice and 3 chords. That doesn't make her the next Carrie Underwood. You always fell for sob stories instead of focusing on talent. Kelly's voice shook with anger. Sob stories. These are real people with dreams. For your information, I picked winners as often as you did. Blake's laugh was harsh. When was the last time one of your winners had a hit on the radio? I can name 3 of mine in the top 40 right now. Kelly stepped closer, her voice dropping, every word sharp. You want to know why my winners didn't last, Blake? Because half of them needed therapy after the way you treated them. They couldn't perform again without reliving that trauma. Blake's eyes went wide. That is nonsense. I never treated anyone badly. Everything was professional. Professional? Kelly's voice cracked. You told Marcus Johnson his Stevie Wonder cover was an insult to real music, on live TV in front of millions. A 22-year-old kid whose hero was Stevie Wonder. You crushed him. Blake ran a hand through his hair, rattled. That performance was rough, Kelly. The truth hurts. The truth? Kelly snapped. That performance got a standing ovation. The only person with a problem was you, and everyone knew why. Blake's body stiffened. Why's that, Kelly? Since you seem to know my motives better than I do. Kelly hesitated, then crossed the line. Because Marcus was outshining your contestant and you couldn't stand it. You had to tear him down. The studio froze. Blake's face cycled from shock to anger to cold steel. That's ridiculous. I have never sabotaged anyone's contestant for my own benefit. Kelly folded her arms. Then explain why every time my contestants gained momentum, you found something negative to say. Every single time. Maybe because your contestants had problems. Blake snapped. I wasn't going to pretend they were perfect just to spare your feelings. This was never about my feelings, Kelly fired back. This was about you being so insecure you had to tear down others to feel better about yourself. The words hit him hard. For the first time, his mask cracked, revealing something raw beneath. Insecure? Kelly, I've sold millions of albums, had 27 number ones, coached longer than anyone. What do I have to be insecure about? All of that success, Kelly whispered. And you still felt threatened by a 17-year-old girl with a guitar. That tells me everything. Blake clenched his fists, stepping back. You think I was threatened by Sarah Mitchell? I was trying to give her realistic expectations. By crushing her spirit before she even had a chance? Kelly's words sliced. There's a difference between preparing someone and destroying them. And you crossed that line. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Blake glanced around, remembering the cameras. Kelly, maybe we should wrap this up. This isn't the kind of discussion for your show. But Kelly wasn't finished. No, Blake, you don't get to shut this down. You owe those kids an explanation. And you owe me one, too. I don't owe you anything, Blake said, his voice tight. We worked together. It didn't always go smoothly. Now it's over. Didn't go smoothly? Kelly's eyebrows shot up. You made my last season a nightmare. Every choice I made, you had something negative to say. To me, to producers, to other coaches. Everyone. If you had a problem, you should have talked to me then. Not ambushed me now, Blake said, voice rising. I did, Kelly shot back. Do you remember what you told me? That I was too sensitive, that I needed thicker skin. You dismissed every concern I raised. Blake looked shaken, staring at the floor. I don't remember it that way. Of course you don't, Kelly said bitterly. To you, I was just another coach who didn't get it. But Blake, I'd already won Grammys, sold millions. I didn't need your lessons. His head snapped up, anger flaring again. Then why did you act like you did? Second-guessing me every step of the way? Because I cared about those contestants more than winning. That's what made me your enemy. Blake's anger deflated, leaving only weariness. You weren't the enemy. We just had different approaches. Kelly laughed, hollow. Different approaches? Yours was breaking kids down. Mine was building them up. If that's a difference, then no, we didn't belong on the same show. Blake was quiet, the fight draining from him. Those kids needed to be prepared. The real world isn't going to cuddle them. Cuddle them? Kelly's voice cracked. I gave them confidence. You tore it away. Do you know how that felt to watch? For the first time, vulnerability flickered in Blake's eyes. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was just doing my job. Your job was to mentor Blake, not to judge. Somewhere you forgot that. The silence was deafening. Finally, Blake reached up and unclipped his microphone. I can't do this, he muttered. Blake, we can work through this, Kelly urged, stepping forward. We can figure it out, but Blake was already walking off. Kelly, I'm sorry if I hurt those kids. I really am, but I won't sit here painted as a villain. Blake, please, Kelly called. Don't walk away. He paused at the edge of the stage, turning back one last time. Some things can't be figured out. Some bridges stay burned. And with that, he was gone. Kelly stood frozen for a moment, then returned to her chair. She looked into the camera. Well, I guess that's one way to end an interview. She took a breath, her voice steadier now. I know that was intense and maybe not what you expected. But sometimes these conversations need to happen, even when they're uncomfortable. Especially when they're uncomfortable. If you stayed with us through this, make sure to subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think. Could this conversation have gone differently, or was it inevitable from the start? Honestly, I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.